Hello, I'm Dawn, and this is Yarn is a Sport. It's time to play ball. Today is what's commonly known as Whip Wednesday, and I think I showed you a whip. I showed you a whip yesterday, which was a little throw rug that I'm working on. I'm not going to show you whips necessarily, but I'm going to tell you how I organize my whips. And if you really want fun when you're moving, put WIPS on the side of the boxes, plural, that you have, and see the expressions and the responses of the guys moving you. I'm going to start with ideas. I think that's where a lot of creative ideas, that was redundant, and I'm not editing. You know what I mean. When you begin a project, there's some kind of an idea. You're inspired by something you see in a store, something you see in a magazine, something you see in a film or a television program, something you envision yourself. But the concept is there. Now, sometimes you get the idea for the outfit first, and sometimes you see the yarn and you're like, that's what that would be. It doesn't always end up that way, but in my opinion, and what has worked best for me, has been to keep track of the ideas. If you don't keep track of the ideas, then, excuse me, no idea what's on that, but I'll probably need it if it's in here. If you don't keep track of the ideas, then when you do come across the yarn, or you do know, okay, that's what I want to do next, and I know I had an idea for that, it makes it easier for a starting point. I'll start with this. This is 3 ideas that I had for an Afghan. Those of you that see me on Instagram, I posted a capelet that I made for a bride. It was my girlfriend's daughter. And I'm going to be honest, this is somewhere in storage. It's not quite finished. I have, I think, 2 squares left to make and the border to do on it. There's only so much room, and it was one of those things that got put into the storage, and I have quite a few boxes of yarns and things. So I saw, all right, this one says inspired by YouTube fiber spider, and he showed a pattern that he did called kaleidoscope, and this was my idea for how to place the yarns. So I did a quick sketch of that. I have the yarns, I just have not done that yet, but it's one that I would like to do. This one, again, it was spider fiber, but I have some other ones listed that have the same. And I did stained glass, and I did one in the pastels and one in the more primary colors. Sorry, I covered my mouth. More primary colors, so I could see the difference and to remind myself not to get stuck. To me, this coloring, I think, was more what I saw at Notre Dame. Such a pity that people aren't going to be able to see. Okay, this one I'm not going to show my idea. There was some yarn called Mount Rainier from Lion brand that I purchased, and I want to make this one. This is how that capelet started out that I did for the bride. There's some other ideas in here, but this one I started and frogged, and it'll be made. But if I write them down, then I have a better idea. This is an Afghan. My daughter's into anime. This is an Afghan with some ideas of some of them that she enjoyed and ideas. This one I did, I had somebody ask me about making, she wanted the really heavy yarns, and she's like, oh, I really want this, but it's like a lot of money at this particular store. And I said, you know, I can do that for you. And I did, and I sketched out, it was a vest, and I sketched out a way to do a hat, and then I showed her some options for the cowls or a scarf that would tuck in. And she told me which one she wanted, and I made that. I did a birthday shawl, and you can see I did different ideas for the stitches and combinations. If you can get it on paper and at least have an idea, it will make it easier for you when you are doing the project. It will help you to keep track. It will help you to say, okay, this idea worked, this one did not. Oh, I want to make that yet. I need to get going on that one. There are some that I have started that I have one shawl I made. I have posted it. I have frogged it because I know I won't wear it as much in a shawl as I would in a t-shirt. So that's what I am doing with that one. This one was some yarn. I had some ideas. This one is that. Those are some ideas. I don't want to. I should have gone through this a little bit beforehand, I guess, to show. But if you go through and you show the colors, that one I'm doing, okay, that one I just did for, I just finished that one up for Boggy Creek. Some other ideas. It's an Advent idea. I had somebody I know that dies and is doing an Advent, and she, I said, you know, I'm thinking about this for an Advent. And she goes, oh, that's great. You know, you should try that. And I said, well, I was thinking about for your Advent next year. And she's like, oh, really? So excited. We're going to be working on that. Okay. Not editing. Sorry. Okay. So I have that page. I might record 2 of these because, all right. So that's the ideas. I have the spiral, I have colored pencils, pencil, eraser, pencil sharpener that I carry in here. And keep it handy. Even if you just do something on the back of a grocery list before you toss it, look at the back, make sure you transfer your idea to the book. But keeping it all in one place is going to make it easier. It helps you to compare ideas. It helps you to look at designs, and I make notes when I make them in the design sheet as well as in my project books. The project books, I have one for knitting and one for crochet. They do have different fronts on them. And when I begin a project, then I write down when I started it. For instance, oh, this one is for that. I thought I had in here. Okay, for the Aphrodite t-shirt that I test knit, I put in here when I did June 19th I started with the blue one, and I entered that July 3rd, and the other I began, I finished it the 29th, and I think I started it like the 6th of July. July 20th I started. What was the second one? I would have gone quicker. And I even put on here, you know, love Fuzzy Whatnots yarn, soft, good drape, comfortable cotton blend. So I knew which one that I got. Those things are important. There was one in here that I wanted to, it is for, here it is. All right, the Seaborn t-shirt is done in a DK weight, and I used Burnett Softy Cotton, 60% cotton, 40% acrylic, 254 yards, 120 grams. The pattern called for twisted rib. I extended the sleeve, decided to do bracelet length, and then it says how many stitches I did. It says which size I made in here. I even put the price of the pattern. I bought it for €8, which was $9.28 at the time in US dollars. I started it October 30th. I did have a test knit for Yellow Wonders in there, and I had something else I knit. So I did put that aside, and at the time I didn't have quite as much yarn in the RV as I do right now. But I finished it February 28th. Now, this is, I told you I change the patterns. The sleeve would have ended here, and I extended it. This is what I did. I prefer the longer sleeve length, and I put in there how I did it so that I can do another one and I won't have to figure it out next time. The other thing that I did, this one should be pretty easy to find because I did a sketch. And I did do a sketch because sometimes the names of them, although this is a clever name, it's called Grow Shawl, and it's by Larrick of Fiber Tales. She's called Fiber Tales. But I did not do it out of the Newton doll. The Newton doll, I think that's what it's called, is not easy to find, and that being the case, I went with what I had. And what I made it out of, I started this October 20th. So I started that, and I was working on that about the time I was doing the Seaborn. And with this one, I put Started Grow Shawl by Larrick of Fiber Tales, purchased on Ravelry. It came with access to some very helpful videos. However, I did my own method of stitches that she drop stitched. Now, I did drop stitch, she did another method, and crocheted back. I don't want to give too much of this away. I used the brown 50% cotton, 50% acrylic by Lion Brand called Comfy Cotton Blend, 200 grams, 7 ounces, 392 yards per cake in Mochiano. It was a DK. I used a full cake and 27 grams of a second cake. I finished it October 29th after 3 froggings. The end product is not a true triangle because I added 2 extra sections for some length, because I knew cotton is I know people tell me that it stretches. That has not been my experience. And this is a washable, dryable, so I'm throwing it in the washer and the dryer. But it's a scarf. It's a kerchief. So I'm all right. I did not swatch, and I chose to do this after watching Fernanda of Little Monkeys and Me. The pattern was 50 Danish krukens, and it was $7.77 in US dollars. And then I did a little sketch at the bottom to show how many of the grow motifs I did. And this is the finished scarf. It's not wool. But I use it this way. I did not want a big shawl, and this is not going to, partly because of the way you do these the motif that sets off each of the rows. It's not going to have as much, so we're pilling a little bit. That's okay. Oh no, it's an end that got loose. Put that back in. Because it's got some give, but it's not really stretchy, and that's fine. But that's part of, you have to decide if you're going to do your swatch or not. I don't for scarves. I don't for shawls generally. If I'm test knitting, you need to. That's part of the process for test knitting. But there's things in here that I have started and frogged back, or that are not, some of them I sent away, and I'm not going to have them. So it gives me notes to know what I did. It gives me notes to see when I started something, the changes I made. If I put it away, I have in here the needle that I used. Okay, this is a Henley that I have started for my husband. Using Lion brand Touch of Silk, 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, 219 yards, 200 meters. So number 4 weight, it's a light 4 in my opinion. 60, and I put that in here. 60% polyester, 20% cotton, 20% silk, raw rough silk. Machine washed, lay flat to dry. Took Mike's measurements. Needs a small rib to keep from rolling. He didn't want a big wide band. That was one of his requests. Doing in the round. Swatch came out to match 18 stitches, 26 rows on number 8. Decided to use number 7 for a smaller stitch. It says how many I cast on to make up the difference. How many stitches, changes I've made, but it tells me these things. That is still sitting back there. We are not as active right now. He put on a little bit of weight, and he told me that, he says, I don't need a sweater right now, so just wait on it. Okay. I knit on it here and there when he's not here. I'm up to the sleeves now. And I figure if he doesn't wear it, I will. But because I have the information in the book, I can go back to it. There are little markers that you can get that have numbers on them that are the hook or the needle size markers. There'll be numbers. You can use those to put on the project. So if you should need the needles and you take the needles, my biggest self-sabotage I think that's how I'm going to word that. My biggest self-sabotage is I will have the size in the books, but I'll decide, I'm going to work on something else. I'll take the needles off, I'll put the end stops on the cable, and then I'll forget which project has the needles in it. I have dental floss is great, and I will tell you, there is a little hole that you use for your key to tighten on your these are cubics. I love the square ones. That you tighten to make sure that these are secure. Otherwise it'll slowly unscrew, and then you're just going to be caught in the yarns and really frustrated. And it keeps it smooth, otherwise it won't be smooth. But in that little hole you can thread dental floss and knit, and when you get to the end of the row, pull that dental floss out of the needle, and you'll have your lifeline. I'm just saying that it's something that I did, and I was like, wow. I don't know if anybody uses a hole for that, but it works. Okay, so that's my suggestion. Is I don't do, I know some people do the projects by the year, and if you want to keep track afterwards of what you did and tally it, that's great. I have done that in the past to keep track of how many I've done, and I usually just go through and count them up and add how many sweaters or how many things I did as gifts, and I probably should do better at that now that I have more that I am knitting, being that I have blessed to have the time with retirement. But the project books to me are really key, particularly if you're not doing all of your projects. And in my opinion, you should have at least 2 whips. I keep a small project in my handbag. I will knit when I am in line at the post office. I will knit when I am in line waiting to be checked out for groceries. I knit, I'll knit standing in my husband's stores, the tool stores, the home decor, the home renovation stores. I'll knit. We'll walk around. I don't care about what's on the shelves, really. That's just what I do. But I have an easy project that I can pull in and out very quick. You don't want to be putting stuff away to get your groceries out because you're next in line. Pay attention. But it's easy in and out. I will have one that stays at the house that is a little more thought intense. You have to pay attention. And then I'll have one that I will be doing that is when I'm watching videos. That's what I do. But in my opinion as well, unless there's a timeline, in test knits there's a timeline. If you have a gift for somebody, if you don't get it done for Christmas, there's a birthday. It needs to be enjoyable for you. It's a gift. If somebody is commissioned you to do something and there's a deadline, that's different as well. Just make sure that it's enjoyable, and don't be afraid to put it down for a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. When you pick it up again, it'll be easier to do if you enjoy it. So that's my suggestion. I'm known to have one in each room. I I have several in my sewing craft rooms. I have my living rooms will have one, the bedroom will have one, the library or den will have one. Those are in storage now because I now just have a very large, long room with the bathroom. I hope this helps. If you have questions, if you have suggestions, please put them in the comments below. Enjoy your crafting. And thanks for coming by to play ball.